All right, guys. So I'm back. Um, so I don't have a whiteboard yet, but I already ordered one, so it'll get easier to learn on the videos, I hope. So for lesson 5 in math, we're learning 3 new vocabulary words. That's sorry for my problem-solving board. Oh, it's probably going to be backwards. That's going to be funny. Anyway, it's the word arrays, rows, and columns. That looks funny because it's backwards. Okay, anyway, so how is this going to help you? This is going to help you when we get to multiplication. And once we get to multiplication, you'll understand why this is very important. So an array is the way we organize things, anything. It could be beads, it could be squares, letters, flowers, anything. It could be anything. So it's the way we arrange things. Now we use rows and columns to create arrays, okay? So you might have like flowers, for example, and they're all mixed together. And the way we arrange it in rows and columns will help you figure out how many flowers you have. Okay, so let's see. An array has rows and columns. Rows go sideways from side to side, and columns go up and down. Okay? That makes sense? And sometimes you'll have an R for rows instead of writing the whole word, or a C for columns. All right? So for example, let's start making some arrays right now. Let's say that I have 6 flowers, and I'm going to draw my 6 flowers, okay? And they're going to be kind of all over the place, just so that we can see like some messy stuff and try to organize them. All right, so I have 3. All right, so you see those are your flowers. Right now, they're not organized into an array that has rows and columns. Now, when you are creating rows, or when you are having just things laying around like this, the book is going to ask you, or in our math journals, it's going to ask us, you need to put them into 2 rows. Well, your 2 equal rows. They're going to go from side to side, and it said 2 of them. So you're going to have maybe 2 rows, okay? And you can draw them. Sometimes they may be already drawn for you. So it has to be equal. The same amount of flowers that are on the top row need to be on the bottom row. So I'm going to take one at a time and start drawing them on my rows, okay? So I'm going to take the first flower, cross it off because I already used it. And I'm going to use another flower and put it on the bottom one so that I'm starting to create. When I have one on top, I should have one on the bottom. Now I've used 2. Now I'm going to go again. I'm going to use another one. I'm going to go back to the top, cross it off because I already used it. Then keep going until I finish. Now I've used 4. I'm going to use this one. Cross it off. I'm going to use this one. Cross it off. So now I've created an array, and it kind of looks like a rectangle. Like you can kind of put it into a box. A rectangle, arrays usually look like a square or a rectangle. You'll start noticing that pattern. But this one here, we had kind of like a messy group of flowers, and we created an array and put it into 2 rows, row 1, row 2. This is where you guys have already learned. There's an array of 2 rows, and each row has how many flowers? Well, easy. We have 1, 2, 3. 3 in this row, and 1, 2, 3. 3 in this row. All right, so here I can write down I have 2 rows of 3 flowers. 2 rows of 3 flowers. Easy peasy. Now, I'm going to take the same amount of flowers and put them into columns. Now they're going to go up and down. Okay? Again, either you're going to draw the lines or they're going to be drawn for you. So I'm going to put them down here next to the red. And we said we want 2 columns. And now I know that the columns go up and down. So I'm going to draw those lines going up and down. Let's see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this marker to cross off so that we see the difference, okay? So I'm going to go in, first flower, draw it. You can draw it on the line or on top of the line, cross it off. Draw the next one on the next line so that I know that I'm creating equal groups. And keep going until I finish. All right, so I finished. I crossed each one of them as I was going. And now you see how here in the rows they were going from side to side, but once I went to the columns, I was going up and down. And here I had 2 columns of 3 flowers. Okay? Now, this is where it gets tricky because sometimes I will tell you it'll be like 2 rows and 3 columns. Like I'll start mixing them together, okay? So let's look right here. On the row, the one that we did first. We said we had 2 rows. But if we look at it, how many columns do we have? Okay? Within the rows, we have some columns that go up and down. Okay? So let's count them. In the rows, we have 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns. In this one, not only do we have 2 rows of 3 flowers, but we have 3 columns of, so this column has how many flowers? 1, 2, of 2 flowers. This column has 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm looking and we have 2 flowers. Okay. First, we said we had 2 rows, the ones that go sideways, and each one of them had 1, 2, 3 flowers. Next, we looked at it and we said we have columns too. So we have 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, and when there's 2 flowers in each. Okay? Then I told you we need to draw 2 columns of 3 flowers. So we went and we drew 2 columns of 3 flowers each. But here we also have rows. So let's count the rows. Because we already counted the columns that go up and down. So now the rows go sideways. So I get to count them. There's 1 row, 2, 3. And each one of them has how many flowers? Well, this row has 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we have 3 columns of 2 flowers. All right? Does that make sense? So here we created 1 array that looks kind of like a rectangle. And here we created another array that looks like a rectangle. All right? So as of now, you guys have now learned the word array, rows, and columns. Okay? We know that rows go sideways, columns go up and down. And we use arrays to organize our work. All right, so let me try one more on a different sheet of paper, okay? Give me a second. Or maybe I can just flip this one around. Like that. Oops. So on this side, I'm also going to write down A for arrays. And then I'm going to write R for rows. And I'm going to draw the arrows sideways. And I think you guys should do the same thing. Once you get back to your seat, you should draw this, what I just drew on my board. A for arrays, R for rows, and I did the arrow sideways, and I think you should do the same thing on your paper, on your math journal, so that you always remember that rows go sideways and columns go up and down, okay? So I'm going to draw X's. Sometimes your math journal will say O's, X's, S, whatever. So for this one, I'm going to draw some X's. Kind of just all over the place. All right, here we go. I drew a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to ask you to please group them in groups of 3. So you're going to count 3 X's and circle them, okay? So here's 1, 2, 3. There's a group of 3. I'm just going to circle it. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to circle it. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to circle it. Make it into a group. And my last group. Okay? So now I've created 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of X's. Now I need to put them into 4 rows. And now I remember that rows go sideways, right? So on the side, I'm going to draw my 4 rows, okay? Remember, sometimes you may have to draw the rows. Sometimes they may be already drawn for you. And I'm only going to draw 3 because I'm going to draw the X's on top, here, here, and here, and that should be enough for me to draw the X's, okay? I only drew 3 lines, but I'm going to draw the group, 1 group here, 1 group here, the 3rd group here, and then the 4th group on the very bottom, okay? I'm kind of skipping the 4th line. So let's see. First group, I'm going to put it up here. 1, 2, 3. Cross off that group of X's. You see that? Crossed off the first group. Now I'm going to go to the second group. 1, 2, 3. Crossed it off, drew it in. And I want you to notice that I'm being neat and organized. I'm putting the first X and the second X right on top of each other. So I'm kind of trying to create, even though I'm not focusing on the columns, I'm still in my mind remembering, oh, I'm still going to be counting columns maybe later on. So I still kind of draw them in that column way. Okay, even though I'm focusing on the rows, I still try to make nice columns. So here's a 3rd one. And now the 4th one. This is the tricky one where most people get confused. I can just draw it on the bottom. It's okay. There we go. See? I have 4 rows. Remember at the beginning I wanted 4 rows. I forgot to cross that out. So I had 4 rows. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if I'm going to write it in a number sentence, or if I'm just going to write it in a sentence, I'm going to say I have 4 rows. 4 rows of how many X's? Well, I have 1, 2, 3 X's here. 3 X's here. So it seems like all of them have 3 X's. 3 X's. And I wrote it down right there. 4 rows of 3 X's. All right? Now the same one, I'm going to ask you to count the columns. So let's look at the columns now, all right? Remember, columns go up and down. So we have 1, 2, 3. Easy peasy. I already organized it. I made it into an array. So all I'm doing is just counting the columns and the rows. So now I have 1 column. And you know what? I'm just going to circle it for this time. The column, I'm going to circle it. 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns. Okay? So I have 3 columns of how many in each? How many X's in each column? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has 4 X's. And I wrote it down. All right? Sometimes you'll notice that they'll ask you for an addition problem. And it'll look like this. So I'm using the row, so my row I'm going to say this is where it gets fun too. So it's backwards, okay? But let's just try our best. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spots, and you're adding these 4 sections. Well, I already know that we have 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, of 3 X's in each. So each row has 3 X's. So this row has 3 X's. This row has 3 X's. This row has 3 X's. And this row has 3 X's. So all I have to do is just add them all up together to find out the total amount of X's we have. So this and this make 6. This and this make 6. What's 6 plus 6? What's 6 plus 6? All right, your answer is 12. All right? Then sometimes it'll have 3 lines that you want to add. And if it has the 3 lines, guess what you'll be adding? Well, the 3 columns, because you only have 3 of them, and each one of them has 4 X's. So I'm going to add 4 plus 4 plus 4, because there's 4 here, plus 4 here, plus 4 here. Okay, so it'll kind of look like this. Kind of like this. So 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 more is 12. 8 plus 4 equals 12. All right, so at this moment, you guys are going to watch the video maybe once, maybe twice if needed. And you're going to be working on Lesson 5 problem set. Lesson 5 problem set. And I think I said, let's check how many. You're only going to do numbers 1, 2, and 3, all of them. And if you finish on time, you can do Lesson 5 homework 1, 2, and 3. And Ms. Reem can write it on the board. But I don't have the page numbers because my pages on my computer are different than your pages on your math journals. So as soon as we turn off the YouTube video, Ms. Reem should write this on the board, the problems that you should be doing, and you should get right to your seats and get to work. All right? So I hope this was fun, and I'll try my best to continue sending more videos, okay? And as soon as I have my whiteboard, I'll be writing on my whiteboard, but I'm thinking it's still going to be backwards, so I'm going to have to figure out how to flip the images around. All right, anyway, have a great day. Welcome back to school. I love you guys, and I miss you very much. Hasta pronto.